Good afternoon, class. Welcome to this session of International Business Environment. In our last session, we started to discuss regarding Chapter 5, that is International Economic Environment. So, discussing regarding introduction and role of economic environment in international business, we had also discussed uh, regarding the three different types of economic system, which are to name. The first one is market based economy, the second one is centrally planned economy, and the third one is mixed economy. Each of this we had discussed in detail, and we had given example of each, and we had also discussed why is it important for a manager to understand the economic systems, especially of those economies to which they would like to enter and start business. Moving forward, in our today's session, we shall discuss regarding the various elements of economic environment of a country. Now, speaking regarding this, now every manager they will have to understand not only the economic systems or which kind of economic system is present in a particular economy, but they will also have to study the performance and the potential of each economist, which would have a direct effect on how the firm would be performing when it enters such markets. Now, both performance and potential are two different things. Performance speaks regarding how is it going on currently, and the potential speaks regarding what are the different growth opportunities maybe, or for that matter, what are the advantages that particular economy can give for a company. Now, speaking regarding this, the managers or international managers usually use different economic measures now to understand and to also assess a country's level of performance and potential. Now, we shall not speak regarding the indicators. So, indicators are nothing but maybe the gross domestic products, the gross national product, or such indicators which will help them to understand or analyze or assess the potentiality and the performance of the system. Now, when they do such analysis and assess this, usually the managers would know first one the size of the demand for its product. Now that is going for a country and starting a business there is definite. So when we understand these different indicators of economy, the first thing it is helpful in terms is that it will, to certain extent, will tell the managers regarding what is the size of demand for the product or service the company is offering in the foreign market. Now, this becomes important from the viewpoint that if at all the demand that is being, asked in the foreign economy is not up to the certain limit what the company is expecting, then there are chances that they might decide not to enter that particular economy, and they might seek opportunities in some other economy. Or it can also be such that, you know, it is demand which brings in the profit. Now, if demand is so low that it cannot cover the expenses of going international, definitely a company would not be deciding to enter the particular economy or market. Now, not only the demand, but when we study the economic indicators of a country, it also lets us know the expected cost of product and also the net earning through which we can ascertain the competitive edge. That is to tell, demand anyhow we would be knowing. Along with the demand, what is the cost that a company has to bear while it produces the goods can also be analyzed, and also what might be probably the net earning would also be known. Now, neither the cost nor the earnings would be definite, but somewhere around that particular point, the company might incur the expenses and the company might earn the profit. Now, one thing we should remember is when we analyze all those things, definitely what we analyze, what we project would we can never tell that to that exact same amount the expenses would be incurred or the profit would be earned. But taking into consideration how the environment is or how other different factors are there, somewhere this number can be analyzed. And when we know both or when there is a what we call as a projected cost and projected profit, there are chances that when we compare this with the rest of the computers, the firm will also understand the competitive edge that it has over other companies. Now, competitive edge is nothing but what are those factors which are advantageous for the company and which acts as the company's strength over other companies. Now, moving forward, there is one more element that we can know when we understand economics indicators. That is, a company would be able to smoothly reparate its earnings to its home country. That is to tell, now, whenever investment is done outside the country, what happens is all the activities would be done in the foreign country, but the profit will belong to the home country itself. So, and the transferring of this, or transferring of this amount or this profit is not an easy task. There is always a lot of procedures involved in this. So, when you understand how the economic system is there or what are the rules that are to be followed, it will become easy for the company to understand how things are to be done in the future. Now, all these things uh, we can know when we study the economic indicators. And we should also remember that managers they usually focus on the monetary value of the total flow of goods and services in the economy. of any nation that they are doing a analysis of. And not only that, usually they also focus on issues like maybe growth rates, the income distribution, the inflation rate that is there in an economy, the unemployment rate, what is the normal wages given, how the productivity is there in the country, and the debt and the balance of payments will also be understood. Some of the issues that we spoke regarding, maybe the growth rates or inflation, now all those things usually they would be studied through what we call as economic indicators. So it becomes important for us to know some of the economic indicators which might be helpful in analyzing all these factors. All these factors in the sense, whatever we discussed right now, maybe the unemployment factor or the inflation, the growth rate, the balance of payment, inflation, productivity. So in that, the first one is gross national income, or what we call as GNI. Now, Now, speaking regarding gross national income, this particular economic indicator, it measures the income generated. Okay, the income which is generated both by total domestic production as well as international production activities of the national. Now, this is what you have to remember under gross national income. Here, the income would be considered. Income of what is the main question. Now, whatever goods has been produced in the country, and also all those goods which are produced outside the country but which belongs to the companies of this particular nation would be calculated. Now, that doesn't mean when I tell products is not included. Gross national income includes both products and services. So, the income generated by producing a good or a service inside the country, and also all those goods and services which are produced outside the country but belongs to the nation will be calculated under gross national income. And this gross national income, it is the market value of final goods and services which are newly produced by domestically owned factors of production. Now, speaking regarding gross national income, now gross national income is the broadest measure of economic activity for a country. Okay, that is to tell it includes almost all the things. So when you tell goods and services, the entire production of a country is included. Also, it does include the goods and services which are being either produced or distributed outside the country but belongs to the country, which are being produced with the help of factors of production of the nation. Okay, and this would be calculated for one particular calendar year. Now, when we speak regarding gross national income, we should also speak regarding gross domestic product, what we call as GDP. Now, GDP will also be included under GNI or gross national income. Now, GDP is nothing but the total value of all the goods and services which are being produced within a nation's border over 1 year. Now, it doesn't matter whether the domestic company is producing it or whether a foreign owned company is making the product. So, that is the thing which is what we call as a little bit narrower than that of GNI. So if GNI includes all those things which are being used or produced by using the factors of production of a nation within the year, GDP speaks about all those goods produced and services distributed within the border of the country for one particular year. And when we speak regarding this goods and services, it can be produced either by the companies which belongs to our nation or from foreign owned company also. And it is said that um, gross national product is a better indicator of potential. We spoke regarding earlier regarding performance and potential. Now it is said that gross national product is a better indicator of potential than gross domestic product. Okay. Now, gross national product or gross national income, we can tell it is better than that of gross domestic product because GDP includes more than what we call as product. Now, usually there would be this GDP or gross national product not only for each of the economies. There are surveys which, they find the world GNP. And one such study, it reveals that, the concentration of the wealth is too much, especially in three nations. That is the United States of America, Japan, and some of the Western Europe on the one hand, whereas, Africa is very much far behind in GNP. So all these things we can study using or we can analyze using such economic indicators. Now there is a widely used method of classification of economies on the basis of per capita income also, or what we call as gross national income. Now, per capita income is nothing but when you divide the gross national income by the total population of that particular economy of the country, we would get what we call as per capita income. Now, based on this per capita income or gross national income, usually the economies are classified. Okay, it is classified as low income countries or what we call as LICs and lower middle income countries, or we can abbreviate it as LMCs, upper middle income countries, which can be said as UMCs, and high income countries. Now, when we speak regarding these high income countries, now out of uh, all the high income countries, there is a group of high income countries which call themselves as OECD, or Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And there are also other high income countries which does not belong to this group. Now, when we spoke regarding lower income countries, middle income countries, and upper middle income countries, now these countries are called as developing countries, and whichever belongs to the higher or high income countries, or the both, it could be OECD or the rest, both, all the countries which belongs to these both groups is called as developed nations. Now, all these things are how the variable is, or excuse me, or how the variable works. And now it is said that while evaluating, the market, it is wise of an international manager to consider the individual product areas also. Now that is to tell that can be explained using a example. Now, through studies, it has been found that the gross national product, what we spoke regarding, the gross national product of Belgium is better than that of India. But then India's consumption of steel is three times more than that of Belgium. So, income, usually it is the most important variable which affect market potentials. But markets are not marketing without money to spend. Therefore, interestingly, we can observe with all these measures that there is an inverse correlation between gross national product per capita and the income elasticity of demand for food. Now, if we compare Asia and that of USA, Asia has zero point 0.9 income elasticity of demand, while USA has 0.16. Now, it could be price elasticity or GNP or per capita income. All these particular topics you have studied under your business economics. So, whoever doesn't remember what it is, you are kindly requested to refer it back. So, it would not be difficult for you all at the end when you go through the handouts. And speaking regarding, the world economies, the distribution of income when we compare the globe, it is very uneven. Okay. In Kenya, the lowest 20% of the population, they receive less than 3% of national resources. And this bimodal distribution of income always means that every businessman must analyze two economies in a country. That is because per capita income judges a country's income level of economic development and its degree of maybe modernization and progress in health, education, and welfare. Now, half of the world's population, it lives within average per capita income of only US dollar 270. Now, per capita is usually reflected, in terms of US dollars, and it is only valid for comparison if exchange rates are equal. Now, exchange rate reflect international goods and services in a country, but not domestic consumption. Even this you will have to know when we speak regarding this per capita. That is, per capita is usually set in terms of US dollar. Now, for each of the country, uh, based on the study, they will get US dollar so much. But then the limitation of this is that every country's exchange rate compared to when we exchange our currencies to that of US, now every country has its own value and it is different for each of the countries. So when we have to compare directly with US, maybe it is easy, but when we have to compare with some other country, we also have to consider the exchange rate, or we can only compare it directly when the exchange rate of our country is equal to that of exchange rate of that particular nation whose economic status we are analyzing. So all these things have to be kept in mind, that it is not as simple as the study has been made, the rates have been given. We cannot directly analyze it. We have to know the exchange rate also, and we'll also have to know how to convert it. And once after conversion, only then the comparison would be possible. And there is one more limitation of that's what the one more limitation of income is the lack of comparability with the figures themselves. That is to tell, now whenever we speak regarding this gross national income or gross national product or GDP, we said all the goods that are being produced in a country, for that matter, goods and services. Now, one more thing that we'll have to remember is that each of the country will have a list regarding what are the goods and the services that are to be included in calculation of all these economic variables. Now, each of the list is different than that of some other country. So that poses a difficulty while comparison. This could be furthermore easily said with the help of an example. You know, the budget of United States, it contains usually food, clothing and shelter. But in many of the less developed nations, these items may be, largely self-provided, and therefore they might not be reflected in national income tables. And also in the United Kingdom, even the snow equipment is included. And what we can see is that if we have to compare United Kingdom and Africa, definitely Africa will not have something called as snow equipment. It will never produce snow equipment. Comparing these two countries would be difficult in terms of the goods or services which has been enlisted in the list. Now, snow equipment might also, be a large portion of any of these economic variables when it comes for United Kingdom. So, having said all this, there are other limitations, that sale of goods are not well correlated with per capita income. And if there is a great unevenness in income distribution, per capita figures will always be less meaningful. Now, product saturation can be equally troublesome in affecting market potential. For that matter, we can even include, vacuum cleaner. When we compare Netherlands and Italy, vacuum cleaners, 95% of the households in Netherlands uses vacuum cleaner, whereas only 7% of the households in Italy uses this particular product. So, yes, we said when we go international, we have to understand the economic system. And when we do our analysis, the economic indicators does help us in understanding the market better. But on one hand, when it does help, on the other, we should also see the different limitations of these economic indicators. Now, it is not only gross national income, but we also have something called as Human Development Index. Now, a Human Development Index is also being considered as a measure of economic indicator. And there are some of the critics or the proponents of Human Development Index, who are of the opinion that Human Development Index or HDI, it is a better measure to scale any country's development. Okay. Now, speaking regarding Human Development Index, the United Nations has translated the same view into what it calls as human development report. And there is a principal indicator or main indicator which is called as human development index. So the idea of human development index is that it measures the average achievement. Average is nothing but total divided by total number that has been taken to measure it. So the average achievement in a country in three different dimensions. The three different dimensions are first one longevity, second one knowledge, or longevity or longevity, what we call as. The second one is knowledge, and the third one is standard of living. Now, longevity, it is seen as a measure, it is measured by life expectancy that would be there at birth. And knowledge is being measured as by, the adult literacy rate and the combined primary, secondary, and tertiary gross enrollment ratio. And the standard of living, it is measured by gross national income per capita expressed in purchasing power parity for dollars. You will also have to know what is purchasing power parity. Even this particular topic has been discussed under business economics. So I do hope you remember what is purchase power parity theory, and how it affects the standard of living or gross national income. So the three dimensions are longevity. Longevity usually is measured on the basis of the life expectancy at birth. Knowledge, when we speak of knowledge, it is usually measured on the adult literacy rate, and also they take secondary and tertiary gross enrollment rate, and they combine it along with the primary enrollment ratio. and together these two makes up the quotient of knowledge. And the third one is standard of living. It is measured on the purchase power parity for US dollar. Now, what we can understand from this human development index is that now it is a comparative measure or a comparison is made. Now, the comparison is made between life expectancy, literacy, education, standard of living, and quality of life for countries worldwide. Now, it is a standard means of measuring the well being, especially child welfare. Now, it is used to distinguish whether the country is a developed, a developing, or an underdeveloped country, and also to measure the economic policy on the quality of life. Uh, so that's why the proponents or the critics who favor human development index usually tell that than going for gross national income, it is always better we have to study a particular economy on the basis of human development. Because as we said, it is a comparison made between the variables what has been taken. That is, it could be life expectancy, the literacy, education, quality of life, or standard of living. Now, speaking regarding Human Development Index, this particular index was developed in the year 1990 uh, by two of the economists, one who belongs to Pakistan, who is been called as Mahbub ul Haq, and an Indian economist, Amartya Sen. Now, according to this Human Development Index, usually countries fall into four broad human development categories. Each of these four broad human development categories comprises 47 countries. Okay. Now, the four different categories are very high human development, high human development, medium human development, and low human development. Okay. Now, except for the first three, the low human development, there are only 46 countries, where the rest other three uh, categories has 47 each. And as we discussed, it was developed in the year 1990, but there was a new methodology which was adopted in the year 2010. And from 2010, they're using this new methodology to find the Human Development Index figures. And also, because of this newly adopted technology, the Human Development Index figures appear lower than that of HDI figures, which were previously, reported before 2010. Now, from 2010 to 2007 to 2010, the first category was referred to as developed countries, and the last three are all grouped in developing countries. Now, the original what we had high human development category has been split into two as above in the report of 2007. And also, because of these changes, what happened was some older groupings, that is high, medium, or low income countries, they have been removed, that were based on the gross domestic product in purchasing power parity per capita. And these have been replaced by another index based on gross national income in purchasing power parity per capita. And the country with the lowest decrease in Human Development Index since 1998 is Zimbabwe, falling from 0.514 in 98 to 0.140 in 2010. Now, the country with the largest decrease since 2009 is Cape Verde, which decreased by 0.170. Now, over half of the world population lives in countries with medium human development. That is 51% of the countries in the globe, it lives with medium human development, while less than fifth, that is 18% populate countries fall in the low human development category. Now, countries with high to very high human development account for slightly less than a third of the world's total population. Now, moving forward, the next index is purchasing power parity, or what we call as PPP. Now, you have already studied regarding purchasing power parity, so I would be telling it in a very brief way. Now, purchasing power parity is a theory which states that exchange rates between currency are in equilibrium. Usually, when their purchasing power is the same in each of the two countries, that would be the state when the exchange rates would be in equilibrium. This means that the exchange rate between two countries should be equal to the ratio of the two countries' price level of a fixed basket of goods and services. Now, different variables are important. The first thing under this is the basket of, you know, or what we call as a fixed basket of goods. Now, that has to be the same, and also the purchasing power. Now, purchasing power is nothing but what one unit of currency can buy. Now, with two different currencies, now for this purchasing power to be equilibrium, one unit of these two different currencies will have to have the capacity of buying same amount of goods or service. Only then can there be equilibrium. And we should also see that when a country's domestic price level is increasing, or in simple word, what we call as inflation. Now that country's exchange rate should depreciate in order to return to PPP or equilibrium. Now, a theory which states that the exchange rate between one currency and other is in equilibrium when their domestic purchasing powers at the rate of exchange are equivalent. In short, or in simple words, what this means is that A bundle of goods should cost the same in Canada and the United States once the exchange rate is taken into account. That is to tell US dollar and or for that matter Canadian dollar and US dollar should be 1 equal to 1 according to purchasing power parity. Now for further more information you can always go back at that. Now I hope for this particular session we shall wind it up here, and for the coming session we shall continue from this particular point on.